Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all of you participating in this little discussion that we're having. When Amanda and Courtney invited me to come on, surely I wanted to be here. And I miss seeing you guys. I should be in front of membership a lot more, but it just seems that I'm so busy. I don't have time for anything anymore. But I'm blessed to be able to work in this industry and with you guys. I think the Greater Lansing Board our association is awesome. And we have such a wonderful group of people that truly care about their clients. And it's special. And I am privileged to be able to know all of you guys and to be able to work with so many talented and great professionals out in the field. It is really neat. So I'm looking at an old outline that I have here that we did several years ago for accreditation to get a couple of CEUs at the board. And I talked about primary water sources and types of laws that we have and the types of testing that we typically do and that we're capable of doing for your clients if they want. I talked about well construction and the different types of wells that there are that we typically run into, and septic tanks and drain fields. So I don't want to just ramble on you guys, because many of you who are present on the call today have heard all this too many times as we've been out on sites together. I'm trying to be a teaching inspector and take our clients by the hand and teach them all about water, poop, and dirt, typically way more than they want to know, which you guys are aware. But
hey, Nathan.
Sure, go ahead.
We actually had a question come in.
Yay.
So the question is, where can we find the most up-to-date list of point-of-sale counties online?
That's a really good question. And within our marketing area, I think I can simplify it pretty much, because Shiawassee and Ingham are the only ones that are left. As you folks are aware, the Eaton County program was rescinded in July of 2018. We'll not get into the politics that precipitated that. I consider it a mistake, not because I needed to work, certainly, but because we were finding a lot of really yucky stuff. I won't. So many stories from the Eaton County program that would curl your hair that were very important. Anyway, I don't know of any online source for like a list of a picture of the state of Michigan where the counties that have point of sales would light up or anything like that. But as far as we're concerned, I believe all we have to worry about for mandated inspections would be for Ingham County and Shiawassee. Now, I just heard from an agent down Southway who is in Washtenaw, and she mentioned something about Washtenaw kicking up some type of a regulation, but I apologize, I'm not familiar with it. But the regulations that affect us are only Ingham and Shiawassee. All of the other 5-6 counties in our wide-ranging marketing area do not have point of sale. So those are the only two at this time.
The person who asked that elaborated a little bit. They said that they have agents who are selling all over the state, and the question is asked a lot. So do you know if there's a resource anywhere that would show what counties statewide, or do you have any knowledge off the top of your head of which ones?
Well, only ones that Kent used to have a program, and as did Ottawa, but I believe they've both abandoned them. And Washtenaw was the county that was considering something that I don't know. So I apologize. No, I don't know of any one source for that information. It's possible that the Environmental Health Division at DEQ, at the, it's Eagle now, that's the new pet name that they have. But the Environmental Health Division up at the State Health Department probably has somebody on staff that is, well, they oversee local counties. They have engineers and staff members that break up the state into regions and counties. And of course, those individuals would be familiar with their particular areas of the state. But there might be, I'll look into that. I'm writing that down right now as all county resource, and I'll make a call on that. And that is a good question. And I'll find out what we have available by calling the state, and then I'll provide Amanda with that information so she can post it or whatever. But again, the only two counties that we've got immediately for us are those two, Shiawassee and Ingham.
Yeah, that would be great if you could help out with that, Nathan, because
Yep.
there are a couple that have come through related to that.
Mm-hmm.
So with Eaton County and Clinton County not requiring point of sale, is that still something that if the client wants to, they can still get an inspection done?
Absolutely. I mean, that's where we come in. You guys are most familiar with Mike Johnson and me, and probably Dwayne King, and now Danny Carlton is coming into the scene a little bit because there's just too much work for Mikey and me to handle anymore. But shoot, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought there. Bring me back, Amanda. What was that question?
Even though the point of sale is not
Oh,
required,
yeah.
clients still can have one done in those
Thank you.
areas, correct?
Yes, thank you. It is cheaper. I mean, the good thing about it is you guys just call us and say, hey, we need you up here. And the county's not involved. So let's see, Shiawassee is $192 for their surcharge or their processing fee. I call it the proofreading fee because we do all the work and then just give it to them. Ingham is $255 right now. So in Clinton and Jackson and Eaton County, there's no extra processing fees, so it does knock about $200 plus $200 to $300 off the fee, which most people like. I'm currently $345 in out counties and $645 in Ingham, and $595 in Shiawassee. At least I think that's right. It changes so much, but yeah, we do those, and I like that. I think it's good that the participants in the transaction are in charge of what's going on and making decisions. I don't really think we need Big Brother breathing over our shoulders and forcing things to happen. Most of the time, we're smart enough to catch those things, and the bad things get corrected. But yes, we are available to all out counties. I do the western half of Livingston and all of Shiawassee, all of Clinton, the bottom half of Gratiot. I go into the southeast corner of Ionia. I try to stay about 50, 60 miles from the Eaton Rapids Lansing core. But sure, we can go up there. Now, the one thing in the other counties is that we are choosing, and the lenders are often dictating which water tests we do. The ones that you'll find that are different are FHA and sometimes VA or the RD loan programs. They are going to want a lead test thrown in. And I have a package, I just call it the FHA package. And most of us are doing something like that so that we can capture all of the required tests that these underwriters might pull. I would always suggest before you call us that you do, unless you are quite confident in the water test parameters that we're going to do for a particular client, I would encourage you to touch with your lender and with the underwriting team and just confirm, what do you guys want? Give me that list of water tests so that I can give it to my health inspector out there in the field. And that way we know, although I think most of us are equipped to take whatever samples you guys want to do. We just haul more bottles out of the truck.
If somebody is going to be purchasing a home in, say, Eaton County, what should the agent tell their client about possibly getting a well and septic test done? What kind of stuff can it reveal about the home that they're considering purchasing?
That's also a good question. I think that every real estate professional in this environment that we're in will always present inspection options to their clients. When you're in a mandated county, it's easy. Hey, we all have to do this stuff, okay? And we can talk about the responsibility that a buyer or a seller may have in Shiawassee or Ingham, but in those counties that do not require, it's still a big ticket item. You know, a new septic system can range from 7,000, basically on the bottom end for a regular conventional trench system, about 7 to 7,500. And all of you guys know what the engineered systems can get. Like, my goodness, we can drop 20 grand on one of those things pretty easy. So I think that's a big ticket item and certainly warrants a close examination. And then you look at health. So big ticket item plus one's family's well-being and health. We're lucky in Michigan, let's face it, you guys. We have beautiful groundwater. Now, yes, some communities kind of have stinky water, and some wells will keep you regular if you drink enough of it, you know, but we're lucky. We have really outstanding groundwater, so we're in really, really good shape around here. And we probably, in all honesty, can be pretty confident about the water quality in 99% of the homes that we do. But there's always those naughty ones out there that have something broken or a piece of equipment that's not working, or bacterial contamination, really common. You have all dealt with that, where we've had to chlorinate the well and rinse it out and get more samples. And those are usually precipitated by some physical problem, a well cap that's gone and bugs are in the well, or a broken casing, or a ruptured pressure tank, or something like that. So you can always relate it to their pocketbook. You know, it's a big ticket item. It's related to the health of your family. I really recommend, and this is you talking, I really recommend that you guys consider these inspections. You guys are smart. You know that if a house was built in 2015, well, and it's had Ma and Pa Kettle living in it for 2 years, it's probably okay. And you might, you know, nudge your client in the ribs and say, you know, Bill, I think this is probably all right. But anything that was built in the 60s or 70s or earlier, even the 80s now, is getting on the cusp. And the systems are starting to fail. And the last thing you want as a real estate professional is having not made those recommendations. So I just tell them we're available. If it's Mike or myself, right at this time, we're booked out a couple of weeks. So if you have a 10-day contingency, you ain't going to get Mike or me. You're going to go down the list to somebody that is not quite so occupied. But I think the 7 to 10-day window is probably a little bit tight in this environment, but plan ahead. And that brings me to something that I think is really important that I really wanted to touch on today. And that is in the mandated counties, in Ingham County or Shiawassee County. What do you guys think? And I'm on the fence with some of this. When should we do the point of sale inspection? That's the general question that I get now and then. And I say, do it as soon as you take the listing. As soon as you have your listing appointment and you get that listing, I would encourage them to get that point of sale done. That way, nobody is surprised at some outcome. The worst case scenario, you guys accept an offer for X number of dollars, then you do the point of sale and you find out you've got a big ticket item that comes straight out of the client's equity position. Not good, okay? So if it's new enough and you're confident enough that everything is just awesomely fine, well, then you could put the point of sale off until you get an offer. But on anything marginal, does anybody out there in a listing appointment say to their clients, well, your house may not sell in the first year? No, you're obviously going to be selling that house and it's going to sell. These point of sales are valid for 1 calendar year. And therefore, it's certainly very, very important that these things get done to get all of these items identified before somebody puts down a hard offer. I mean, I think it's really significant that, but again, if the house is less than 10 years old, then you probably can have some flexibility in that, and not be at risk. But anyway, I think we should get them done as soon as possible, because we're definitely going to sell it in a year's time.
Nathan, I just want to clarify. Are you saying just septic or well is
No, whole
well
thing.
too?
Get the whole thing done. Get your point of sale approval in the bank and in the file. And it's good for 1 year. And both counties, Shiawassee and Ingham, offer a 1-year extension. If you do not sell for some reason within the first calendar year, they will extend it as long as no major changes have occurred in that home. And the extension is, $100 or 150 or something like that. And Ingham even goes, at some occasions, if it's been vacant, they're going to go into that 3rd year, into the 2nd year. So I just don't see any reason not to get it done, because why wonder about it? It's just, these kind of things are really bad when they come up at the 11th hour. And probably everybody on the phone call has had that happen. Think you're going to closing and, oh, nuts, now we got this big thing in the way.
Nathan, can you elaborate on what you mean by 1 calendar year? Somebody's asking.
Yeah, sure. Let's say that we did the inspection on July 1st, and then we turned in all the paperwork, and it gets turned in, well, with me, July 14th. No, hopefully earlier. So then the county gets it, and they write their magic letter, the letter of conformance or letter of compliance, whatever county it is in. The date on that letter starts the clock. Okay. So the date that the county writes the letter of approval is that magic calendar date. And that point of sale, actually, the house can sell as many times as it wants to within that year. I mean, I've seen some quick flips happen where the point of sale got done. The individual got it all fixed up and sold it in 6 months, and the point of sale was still valid. So sell, sell, sell it. It flipped 2 or 3 times within that first year of approval. So we don't have to redo them when we're in that first year.
I have another question here, and it's kind of long, so bear with me. If a client wants to get an evaluation of a vacant land parcel for your recommendations on a well and septic system before they purchase,
Mm-hmm.
do you suggest we have you do an inspection, or do we rely on a perk test before buying?
That is a really important and good question. There is only one entity in the state of Michigan that can do, well, it is a perk test, but it isn't a perk test. That's old terminology. Now we use something far more scientific. It's called a soil evaluation, but basically we're just digging a hole. It used to be a perk test was a 3-inch diameter hole, gets bored down a couple of feet, and then they fill the hole with water, and then they would watch the water go down in the hole and measure how many inches per hour that the water dropped in the hole. Way primitive. Didn't tell you anything about the soil. So the entity that can do it is the local health department. That's it. Now, the only thing that you and I could do, going out on a piece of vacant land just to kind of scope it out and see what kind of a septic system we would have, frankly, you're going to need me there, because I've had, decades of work in local health department work. So I have been that person. I have written permits and done the finals and been a health department person. So I personally can look at a site, soil textures, water table, elevation, all of these factors, and I can do pretty darn good at telling you what's going to happen. But it's just a guess. It's only speculation. Nathan has no power for land approval. Only the health department does that. So you must, capital letters, underline, if you're looking at vacant land, you must start with the health department. Otherwise, you're spinning your wheels and wasting your time. Okay? You've got to know that that piece of land is approved for on-site sewage disposal. So make awful sure that the seller of that vacant land parcel has historical or recent documentation that that parcel of land has been approved for construction. Again, otherwise you're just wasting your time. The health department is the only entity that can tell you that. Ingham is terrible. You guys know that if you've made an application for vacant land evaluation in Ingham County, it's $800. I think just the soils work is $450, and then the well permit's $400, and the sewage permit's $400. So by the time you're done, you've dropped $1,200 on 1 acre of vacant land. But get the soils work done first. The Ingham County, all the counties now require a backhoe that you hire some digger to be out there on a piece of vacant land with a backhoe. On very few occasions, the health department staff will use an auger, and they will auger down and make the judgment. If you're in certain areas of Vevey Township or even other townships have a lot of sand. When we're familiar that some places, that's just solid sand, we're not going to make you get a backhoe. We'll just do borings and verify what we've got. But the vacant land evaluation always comes first. First.
Is it true that the different seasons can affect if a property will perk?
Yes, profoundly. But Mother Nature leaves clues in the soil, and you've probably heard health department people talking about this. They talk about mottling. It's mottling, mottling in the soil. When the water table comes up underground, it reaches a certain peak elevation in the soil, and then a layer, a high water mark, if you will, a trace streak is left in the soil showing where that high water table was ultimately. And when we do a soil profile, even though that during the season you've not seen any water on the surface, so you wouldn't know visibly, you can always tell what's been happening. But I would suggest that vacant land evaluations be done in the driest time of year. If you're out there in April or May, they're just going to dig holes and the water will come pouring into the hole. And well, that's a pretty good clue that the site is not going to be approved. So in answer to the question, you can do them year round, and we get a good idea of where the water table is in the high water periods. We can tell by evidence left behind in the soil. But it's always better to do it in dry. It's always better to do point of sales in the dry weather too. Just to share with you guys, we have had this last year, I had, maybe with some of you guys, at least 10 homes where I went out during the wet season, like during those heavy wet times in March. And oh my God, the whole backyard is a pond. So obviously we can't do the inspection. Or the drain field, when I did the borings or the probe and water comes shooting up out of the hole. And I've had to say, you know what, you guys, we have to wait. I've seen this the way it is, and I got to report that it is vulnerable. And during seasonal periods, it's going to be wet. But I can't turn this in on you right now, or you're going to fail. So what we've done is we've waited. And I don't think it's cheating. I mean, I saw it, and I know it's vulnerable, but I go back 3 weeks later after the rain has subsided and the groundwater has settled a little bit, and that system gets approved. So rain and wet environment can be really significant, especially in a point of sale. For vacant land, it is less significant, but man, encourage your people to do their point of sales in dry weather. That's for sure. I hope that addressed it.
Nathan, when there is a soil evaluation being done, approximately how many holes are dug?
It depends on the size of the parcel. If you are looking at 1 acre, there's probably going to be 1 or 2 potential building sites. And what I ask is that the clients have the home staked out, go ahead and stake out the corners of your garage and your house where you would like it ideally. Where's your first choice? Okay, use the red stakes for your first choice and use the green stakes for your second choice if there is options. Obviously, on that 1 acre parcel, we're going to do 1 or 2 holes, and that's going to be about it. But if you're on a 100 acre parcel and there's 15 potential building sites, well, each one of those building sites is identified and either staked with our imagination or literally physically staked out, and the potential locations for septic systems are investigated. The county charges by the hour. Their initial evaluation fee, and I'm not sure about the amount, let's say it's $450. That gets you 1.5 hours. That's it. You get 90 minutes. You got your backhoe out there, you get your sanitarian out there, you start digging holes. You can dig as many holes as you want in 90 minutes. Anything over that, you're paying them, I think it's $88 an hour. Maybe it's 88 a half hour. I can't remember. It's on the fee schedule. But you can keep them out there all day if you want to, but you got to pay the extra fee. So depends. If we find something really good and really nice in the first couple of holes, we're done. We do it right there. If not, we keep on digging. Sometimes you dig a lot of holes and you never find anything. Well, everybody's disappointed there. So it is dependent on number of potential building sites and the size of the parcel.
And how long are soil evaluations valid for?
Good question. Thank you. Forever. Okay. In my opinion, a soil profile never changes. Okay. It's good for 10,000 years. However, Ingham County at one point got squirrely. And I think it was because they were greedy and they said, soil evaluations are not transferable. I said, what? So if John Smith has a perk test done on a piece of property and then doesn't build and goes away or whatever, and then, Ann comes along and she wants to buy it. Well, they are claiming that Ann has to redo all of the soil work. And, I gave them major grief over that. And I asked them how they can even sleep at night, because that soil work's good forever if no major change has been made. So Ingham is the only exception at one time. Now, they may have reverted back, and soil evaluations might be transferable. That is an awesomely good question, and it really tempts me to try to get the supervisor for Ingham County Health Department on the phone with us right now on my cell phone. That's another one I'll write down. I won't do that to you guys, but let me write that down. Soil evaluation transfers. I'm leaning towards the fact that they got so much grief about it that they changed it back, and that once the soil work is done, it goes into the file. Okay, so it's in the file forever. So when you go to look at that parcel that was previously evaluated, they yank the paperwork out of the file and they say, oh yeah, back in 2006, Mr. Banghart was out there and did the work, and there it is. That's the way it should be. That's the way it is in every other county except Ingham, because frankly, they're money hungry and have to be paid for everything that they do. And so as far as I know, every other county, those soil records are permanent and they never expire.
Could you define modeling again, please?
Yes. Modeling is physical evidence which is left behind in the soil profile from the water, the groundwater, as it rises in the soil. It picks up minerals and soil particles and different things as the water moves up. It literally floats the minerals and tiny elements in the soil. It floats them up, and those items end up on the very top of that water table that is underwater, but it does come up to a specific level. And I'm just going to describe them, for lack of a better way, as the floaties on top of that water table. It's calcium, and it's iron, and it's magnesium, and it's all of the mineral components that are trapped in natural soils, that when the water flushes through the soils, be it sand or clay or whatever it is, when the water pushes through the soil body, it pushes out and removes and takes minerals, particularly calcium, and puts it into solution, okay? So then when it becomes a floaty, it leaves a white line. Calcium is really very easy to see. Some of the other minerals and soil components are less easy to identify, but when you become good at it, you can see them really easy. So in answer to the question, it's minerals and soil components and elements of natural soil that are literally rinsed through that soil body and end up at the very top of that water table. And that's what we use. It's like somebody took a piece of chalk sometimes and just made a line right in the soil. Those of you that have been out with backhoes and seen enough walls of a backhoe cut, you know how it's very clear. You can see those soil profiles and layers as you go down. Here in Michigan, we have A, B, C horizon because of the way the glaciers laid stuff down. It's really interesting geology. And I always have fun when I'm down in a hole. But that's what it is. It's minerals and tiny, tiny elements that get pushed and rinsed through the soil and left behind in a distinct line that can be measured.
Nathan, we've had a couple different comments come in regarding soil evaluation lifespans in Clinton County not being exactly consistent on expiration date either. Do you have any experience with that?
The only thing that I have seen that has changed an existing soil evaluation result is a change in the local environment. Somebody builds something or plugs a drain that results in flooding or a change in the environmental conditions on the site. And that's very easy to see. Wow, this used to be a nice sandy lot. Now it's a pond. What happened? Well, things like that. The other thing that changes is office procedures. Okay, back in the 60s and 70s, the office procedures were go out and dig a hole and approve everything. There was no restrictions. They didn't even type the soils. If the water dropped in that perk hole, it was good enough. That's why we have so many old systems that are really in bad shape. But anyway, I guess they lasted 40 years, so I can't whine too much. But it takes a change in something to alter that soil validity of the soil evaluation. Let's say they approved it back in 1992, it was approved. And then you guys come in 2020 and they go back out for whatever reason and they say, oh, no, we can't approve this. And they deny it. Well, there would have to be some significant change in the site characteristics or an office procedure. They said, oh, we're not going to allow this type of soil anymore, and we're changing our SOP. And that would result in those older evaluations being potentially invalidated. But as far as I know, Clinton keeps the soil work in the files forever, I think.
We have another question here. Can you describe exactly how chlorinating a well is done? Once chlorinated, how long do you wait until retesting?
Okay, that's a good question because we sure do a lot of that, don't we? When your clients get a positive bacterial analysis resulting in the recommendation to disinfect the well, in other words, let's kill off a few of those bacteria. Nobody should be overly alarmed if there is no construction damage or something physically wrong with the system. These bacteria are omnipresent and they are not pathogenic. Now, if it's E. coli, Escherichia coli positive, then there is a serious problem, and that is a pathogenic bacteria. But normally, coliform positive are, if you chew your pencil right now while we're having our discussion, you're eating coliform bacteria that we find. So the chlorination is either done by the homeowner if they feel they're capable, or by a well driller. And we like to have a minimum 12 hours of what is called CT, contact time. That means that chlorine, that chemical goes into the well, and it has at least 12 hours of contact time. Now, ideally, if it's a vacant home and nobody's in there, 24 hours. Let's let it cook for 24 hours for sure. But when you have an active family in a home, we're lucky if we can get 12. So then we would want to purge the system. We'd hook up garden hoses. Don't flush out the interior of the home unless you're on public sewer. Then we don't care, because we don't want all that extra water hurting the drain field and pushing a bunch of yucky through the septic tank prematurely. So when purging a rural property, always only use garden hoses and use as many as you can hook up. If you can hook up 3 hoses on that house, do it. And then after the 12 to 24 hours of contact time, you want to make sure that that softener is bypassed and unplugged and disconnected. If anybody's interested, I have a written chlorination procedure that I wrote up back in the early 80s that's still in use out there. And I'd be glad to provide that to anybody that wants it. And let me put that on my list, CO2 procedure that I can give to the girls to keep and provide to you guys down the line. So we've run 2 or 3 hoses, 2 or 3 hours, just cranking, wide open. That should do it. That should remove all the debris and stuff that's in there and all the dead bacteria and everything. And then we go ahead and put the system back online. And I think, I don't know that I would recommend people immediately start drinking it, but you could certainly use it for all household things, for doing wash and taking showers and washing dishes and all that stuff immediately. Depending on the population in the home, if I had 3 20-year-old men living in the home, I'd say drink it. It's been chlorinated, you're fine. But if I had a nursing home or infants in the home, I certainly wouldn't say that. I'd wait till we had it tested. But you're ready to test as soon as that hose procedure, as soon as there's no chlorine left in it. What I usually tell people is I say take a nice white styrofoam cup and go out to where you're purging it and fill your cup and look for anything in there. It should be crystal clear, and then give it a sniff and a taste. And if there's no trace of chlorine, either odor or flavor is not one thing. Odor is the one we go by. If you can't smell anything, you're ready to rock and you're ready for retesting. The effectiveness of a chlorination, I would say, I wouldn't expect it to be effective against new growth of bacteria probably for more than 30 to 60 days. And then if the system is inoculated or recontaminated by its original source, it's going to be showing bacterial positive again. But normal chlorinations freshen a well up for up to a year. But I think we can test them as soon as the chlorine is gone. They're ready for retesting. And if you are in the midst of an evaluation, I would get the sanitarian or the inspector back out there within 2 or 3 days. Feasibly, they could take the sample before the purging, the hoses, before they're even shut off. Let's say your 3 hoses have been running for 2 hours and you happen to know that one of us is going to be nearby and you've made arrangements. Say, hey, Mike, hey, Nathan, the hoses are running and it's 3 hours, stop by. I will grab a sample before the hoses are even shut off. I take the hose off the house and clean up the faucet tip there, but I would, immediately grab a sample. So once the chlorine is gone and the water is crystal clear, you're ready to go.
Thank you. There's definitely some positive feedback on wanting to see those procedures.
Mm-hmm.
If you could get that, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Don't show them to a well driller though. Okay. Make sure that you don't, because the well drillers would be mad at me. I can't teach you guys how to chlorinate, and I can't teach homeowners how to chlorinate because that's the well driller's business. And I don't want them mad at me because I work with them all the time. So it's secret.
Alrighty, guys, you heard it. So can you clarify where a sump pump should drain to when there is a septic system?
Yes, thank you. That's a really good one. Whoever brought that one up brings up the biggest reason why septic systems fail. That is the number one reason why septic systems puke, because people put their sump pump into the septic tank. That's a monstrous mistake. Be aware of that one, okay? Always look, where is that sump pump going? And in certain instances, we know that, well, sump crocks are dry. Water never comes into this sump pump. The only thing that goes in it is our softener. Well, okay, that's not going to be one that's going to kill the drain field. But most sump pumps, if they exist, are potentially busy. And if that sump pump runs 20 times a day, it will literally throw thousands of gallons into the septic system. So, number one answer, never, never put a sump pump into a septic system or into the main plumbing. Always go out to the ground surface. In the state of Michigan, I would point out right now, there's no such thing as gray water. We used to talk about, well, we just took the gray water and we put it. Not in Michigan. No such thing. It's either clear, which is, I'm going to list the clear wastewater for you, water softener discharge, furnace condensate, and sump pump discharge, because that's just groundwater, okay? Those three are clear wastewater. They are to be discharged onto the ground surface. Now, we don't get excited about furnace condensate. We don't care where that goes. That's incidental. But water softener discharge and sump pump discharge must go to the ground surface in the state of Michigan. Some counties don't enforce it because they don't feel it significant to worry about. But in all point of sales, it is required that sump pumps not go into septic and that water softeners not go into septic. Shiawassee County puts it in the form of a recommendation. They will not fail the file, but they will say, hey, you guys, don't do this. Ingham, they'll fail it. They'll prevent your transaction for a sump pump. So that's a big one. Yeah, thank you for that question.
There was also a second part to that question about, can you clarify where clothes washer should drain to?
Yep, in the state of Michigan, and thank you for bringing me back to our discussion about the types of water. If it's not clear water, guess what? It's black. That means, no, wait a minute. You just said there's no gray water and there's only 3 kinds of clear. That means that laundry has to be black water, and it is. In Michigan, the rule is, excuse me, anything, let me sip this cold coffee. Yuck. Anyway, in Michigan, there is no gray water. So we've got these sump pump water softener that we take away. Everything else has to go. Sink basins, slop sinks, bathtubs, washers, kitchen sinks. Everything has to go into the septic system. Laundry cannot go out onto the ground. It obviously can't go to a local stream. In point of sale counties, it cannot be discharged into a dry well unless there is a septic tank ahead of it. So you got to have a regular septic tank of some kind to catch the solids, and then you can go into a dry well in non-point of sale counties and in Shiawassee. But in Ingham, nope, no dry wells are allowed subsequent to a point of sale. I mean, right now we're not going out looking for them, but when we find them, they are disallowed, and the laundry must be conveyed into the primary sewer line and the septic tank. So laundry is black water.
So it would be legal for the washer to be drained into a sink because the water is going into the sewer line?
No, it's if you had a washer draining into a sink, then the sink would drain into the septic. So you're fine. As long as it ends up in the septic tank, we don't care.
Do you feel a garbage disposal does damage to drain fields?
Only when the septic tank is neglected. If you have an individual that says, well, my grandpa said that you never have to pump septic tanks. Well, that's bad advice. And they must like to put in whole new systems when the time comes. If a family has a garbage disposal, it does create excessive demand on the biology in the tank, because instead of working on the decomposition of human waste, it has to work on the decomposition of food debris. And the food debris creates a far higher, and it's called biological oxygen demand, or BOD. The biological oxygen demand in the decomposition of food waste is astronomical compared to what it takes to decompose human waste. So I tell all of my clients, sometimes the ladies, they put their hands on their hips and they look at me with a disgusted look. And they say, what good is a stupid disposal then? But I say, if you have a disposal, no fats, no meat, no grease, no eggshells, no coffee grounds, no raw vegetable peels, all of that stuff should go in the wastebasket. In my opinion, the only thing that should go in a garbage disposal is cooked foods, like cooked peas and mashed potatoes, off the dinner plates, just to rinse your plates down. I would not be a wholesale grinder upper of all of the food waste from my home. That's bad for septic systems. It's not good for them. But if you pump your septic tank every 3 years religiously, never going to hurt the drain field, because those solids will never get out into the tile system, into the soil system. It is neglect that causes that. When the solids build up in the septic tank such that when a flush comes through, it stirs everything all up and it pushes those solid materials out into the septic system, into the drain field. That's when it gets bad. So the real magic to septic tank maintenance is keeping the tank pumped. I tell people, you can't have toast if you never have bread, right? So if you'd never have a septic tank full of solids, it will never get out into your drain field. So you can keep your drain field beautiful forever if you just pump your tank on a regular and routine basis. Always be faithful of pumping out your tank. And if you have a disposal, just be careful with it. Don't overuse it. But that's a good question.
Does the sump line need to be buried, or can it drain above ground?
Whatever the client's preference. It's legal either way. Most people like it to be neat and out in the corner of the lot before it comes up to the surface. But others have no problem with a pipe right out the side of their house, burping onto the lawn. So either is legal.
If someone has more bedrooms than the septic tank was built for, is that an issue?
It can be, although there are no local health departments that will require the addition of more septic tanks or a larger septic system based on an increase in bedrooms, unless they have been invited to do so. If a homeowner, put on an addition and added a bedroom or two to the initial design, when homes are built in the state of Michigan, permits are written. At least they're supposed to be. So anytime a home is on well and septic, a permit should be on file from the local health department. And it's sharp that the questioner did base it on bedrooms, because it is. Most people say, well, man, how many bathrooms are there? How many bathrooms can you have? Well, you can have 17 bathrooms. It all depends on the number of people that live in the home. I mean, you're never going to use all the bathrooms. So that's why we use bedrooms as the measure. You figure 2 people per bedroom. So if you have a 3-bedroom home, you design that septic system for 6 people. And 6 people is about 450 gallons per day. So you design that septic system with a minimum capacity of 450 gallons a day, because you got 3-bedroom home. It doesn't always work out that way, but if a client said, hey, we're a family of 8 and we're adding 2 more bedrooms. Hey, health department, do you think we need more septic system? Well, they might come out and say, yeah, let's do it, if you were receptive to that, and they would assist you, but they would never come out and make somebody add. Now, sometimes townships are involved. So when a building permit is issued, in some jurisdictions, the building department goes straight to the health department and says, hey, look, they're adding on. You guys want to do anything? And some townships have a checkbox for the health department to sign off on the addition of a bedroom. So it can go either way, but most of the time they don't bother you. On a pre-existing structure with a bedroom addition, they're not going to require any changes.
Thank you for that, Nathan. I said in the beginning that these things are usually 20 to 30 minutes, and it looks like we are now at 53 minutes.
Wow, I'm sorry, you guys. I'm so long-winded. We haven't even touched anything. We should do this again, and you guys can think about the questions that you really, really are at the forefront of your mind. Something that a lot of people ask me is, does Ingham County just do mounds only now? Is that all they do? No. The counties all want to do conventional systems, and they're not making any money when they force you to do a mound. They're just, the new Michigan guidelines require 48 inches from water table evidence to the bottom of the septic system. Excuse me. So that's causing a lot of local health departments to have to change some procedures. But I'm sorry, I get so distracted. We've not talked about water testing or soils or any of that kind of stuff, but I invite you guys to call me anytime you want. You've all got my number. Call me with any question. No question is crazy. I'm always here for you. I'm hoping I get to retire and shovel all of this work onto these other deserving young men. But I'm still here, and I want to be a resource for you guys and to facilitate your transactions in any way I possibly can. So please feel free to rely on me. My email, I think, is on umpteen lists all around at the board, and at every county has got my email. It's so complicated. It's whistlingsanitarian@comcast.net. But you can find it. I would invite you guys to call me anytime you want, anytime you have a question. And I so appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys. Thank your lucky stars that you could not see me. Okay, that is a real bonus for you guys. And I really look forward to seeing you out in the field. So thanks again for your participation in this. And anytime you guys want to do it, I'm totally into it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nathan. Do not apologize. This has been a great session, and it needed to be this long because that's how many questions that we had coming in. So I definitely think we should do this again. So everyone look forward to another session with Nathan. We'll be sharing information whenever that is scheduled. And like I said, the session is being recorded, and we will share it again with you. Nathan, do I have your permission to share your email and your mobile phone number with the folks in the evaluation?
Absolutely. No problem at all. I love you guys. You have made my life worthwhile, and I feel like my relationship with all of you is awesome, and I'm very grateful.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Everyone have a great day. Thank you for joining.
Have a good one.